It's Friday, yo. We got to bust a move. Let's get some stuff done. I've got one glove left over from yesterday that is still valid and usable. And I don't know where we left off yesterday, but we're going to figure it out and we're going to get it done. So it's this guy, which I just unplugged. It's been keeping this warm all night. I'm going to go ahead and torque this guy down the rest of the way. Our little oil sump that we started yesterday, I'm going to torque that guy down. A final torque sequence to 9 foot-pounds, and then we will move on to adding other stuff to this engine. Here we go. Torquing stuff down is oddly satisfying. You know, there's some, it's like that little click of the torque wrench is like a great signal that you have accomplished something. And how lovely is that? It's a great feeling, especially on a Friday, that you've done something meaningful in your life. All right, we're torqued out, and hopefully that is a durable thing that we won't have to come back to again. While I'm down here though, I've got the oil sump bolt. I'll go ahead and throw that guy on here. I may have a new washer, I think. I'll just check my little gasket kit. I would freaking hope that gasket kit came with a washer for the oil sump. It should. If it has any kind of value, that gasket kit. Alright, and then we'll have to tighten that down later. And we've got an oil filter right here. So I'm just using, like, this is what I can get from the auto parts store locally. It's like, this is the same filter for like every single motorcycle. Like, there's really no huge difference apparently, because it's the only one they sell at the auto parts store. This one also fits my CB500. And then the Grom, of course, has no oil filter because it's just a magical machine. It's got me. It's got me. Ah, get off. All right. So this is a serious power move right here. Putting an oil filter on here, like we mean business. This engine is coming to some sort of completion. I mean, we're going places here. All right, I am now looking for the wire that goes to the starter motor. I took it off, well, kind of not recently, but not that long ago either. I just disconnected it from the starter, so it shouldn't have gone too far, right? There it is. Found it. I found it. Yeah, so it's this guy right here. It's just one wire coming basically from the battery, from our main fuse, whatever, and this guy goes straight to the starter, and the starter itself grounds to the actual, like, the engine itself, basically. So you just throw some juice through this guy, and bam, that's all you need. Don't need a return wire. So I left my little nut on the starter itself. That is my secret to not losing nuts. Just don't take them places, and then they will be right where you left them. Let's see if that reaches down where it's supposed to go. All right, starter is hooked up once again. Look at this little clip. This is the starter wire right here, and then right there, a little clip. It's meant to be for this little starter wire. All right, I think I'm gonna go ahead and stick the spark plug. These are spark plug connectors. Spark plug wires, my coils. We got the coils on either side, which is kind of fun and interesting. But hook these guys back up. One's in the back here. Where did this go? All right. Where did that live before? Clearly this is bolted down somewhere. Okay, turns out it is not obvious because it goes like right here. It's supposed to live right here, and it actually attaches to the like intake box, the air box. So, which is not on here yet. So I guess we're gonna hold off on putting these back at the moment. Let's look at installing whatever else we can on the front of the bike. The other radiator would make sense in terms of finishing up our cooling system hoses here. We got wires to start considering where they are gonna be living. It's starting to get real. Moving forward here at this moment, this phase of the build is just to get things back together and in their stock form, and then get the bike running and make sure we've got something here. And then we'll worry later about customizing stuff, moving things to different locations, etc. So over here by our little gas tank that we're working on is my box of VFR parts. Some people have a shelf that they put the spares on as they're working on the bike. I have a bin. So here is our radiator for the right hand side. Let's see if we can get this back on. So my radiator here had some issues. You can see this mount here is busted right there. And the mount up here has also got a little crack there. It's separated from the radiator a bit. So in theory I should be able to fix that. I think I could repair that, weld it back, but there's also a bunch of gunk in there. This is the side of the bike that went for a slide. This is the side that took the impact or whatever, so it would make sense that this is damaged. But for the amount of sliding it did, this is in good shape. Like all the cooling fins and stuff here are in good shape. So as long as I can fix those mounts, we'll be all right. I have some cushion here because this section down here does not have coolant running through it. It's just all these little lines here, these sort of channels or passages in the middle. The ones on the ends here do not have coolant running through them. This is kind of cool. I don't know if we'll be able to see this or not. Boy, this is hard to get the angle. There you go. You can see a passage in there. You can kind of see, like, that's what it looks like in there. Not that it isn't somewhat obvious from the outside what's going on here, but you've got these little openings on the inside here, and that open up these channels, and then the water flows through here, and then all these little tiny fins in between are just pulling heat from that channel. It's pretty neat setup. I don't know. It's kind of fun to see the inside of this. Haven't really seen that before. So let's get this guy mounted up here. This radiator hose, I was just looking up, sort of writing down part numbers I need to order. This one, I would like to order new ones because it's got this nice significant bend right here. But this one, it doesn't look like it's available anymore to purchase. So that will be an interesting thing to see how I figured that out. All right, let's get this guy mounted up here. Got a little bolt right there. It is kind of fascinating how little holds this radiator on. There's a couple mounts here, there that it slides onto, and then like one bolt. And then you got the hoses. The hoses are really the key aspect, I think. I'm just gonna get this on here and get stuff hooked up for now. My goal is just to sort of get this engine running, and then we'll most likely be taking things back apart later on to some degree or another. They'll also give us the opportunity to like put new hoses and things like that on here. I mean, I probably could get away with it. This hose doesn't look like it's in bad shape. I could probably get away with it, but it'd just be nice to update it. So I've been staring at this hose, this guy right here, because that's the one that's got a little bit of a kink to it. And the other day I was like, oh, if I just shorten it a little bit, it'll take care of that kink. But now I'm staring at it and I'm thinking about the physics and stuff, and I don't think shortening that is going to make any difference. I think my problem is that I need the factory hose that has a little bend in it to make that work. If I make it longer, the kink will definitely be worse, but if I make it shorter, I don't think it's going to help, because like the main issue is that that guy is at such a short hose, such a short piece of hose, and it does have a bend. Like there's such an acute bend, it's always going to have that kink
unless you have the hose itself is kinked, where it's supposed to have a bend in it. So factory hose, that's the only solution, I believe.
Just put that on my growing list of parts to order. So I'm just going ahead and cleaning up this radiator mount stuff. All right, now we can put it back. Now we gotta start thinking about hoses for other spots here. So I've got this hose coming across here. We've already cut a hose for the bottom. The radiators connect at both the top at 2 points. The radiators connect going across. We got a new hose on the bottom, an old hose up on top here. And then we've got this little joint here to do as well. Maybe I'll start with this little joint up here because that's simple, right? Little hose cutters here. Measure out my hose. Look at this guy, chop. It's a little bit too long. That always, I don't know why that always seems to happen. I always seem to cut it a little bit long, man. Which is better than cutting it short all the time. That would be annoying. That's better. That is better. All right, go ahead, get this guy back together. So I had a pretty good workout this morning. I don't know if you're interested in those things. But yeah, Friday, trying to get some stuff done, trying to end the week with a bang, you know. So got a decent workout in this morning. I work out every morning. I try to. I do most mornings because it's part of the routine, you know. Get up, work out, come out here, get some stuff done on this bike. And then go do some editing, get these little videos done. And I think we're gonna have to cut this hose on the bottom as well to make that work. And this hose on the top, let's try and swap that out. This also has a small kink in it. Not really sure why. Like this looks, I'm just looking at stuff up here. I know there's also an oil cooler that mounts up in here. I think that mounts up right up in here. So let's get that guy out before we get too crazy with these hoses. Try and get everything in place, you know, so I don't go all in on one thing and then realize I made a mistake. All right, so back to our pile here. Here's our oil cooler. Just trying to take a look at this guy, examine its state of being, see if it's has any significant damage or anything. I've got 2 new O-rings for down here. This is where this attaches to the oil sump right there at the bottom. But yeah, that looks all right. But yeah, those are the 2 mounting points for the top up here. Can you see in there? But yeah, and again, I've got my 2 bolts. I've got 1 bolt there, 1 bolt there. I've just left them back on the frame there where they live. That helps me because like when the time comes I go, oh wait a minute, something is supposed to live there. There's a couple random loose bolts that's sort of half screwed onto the frame. So it reminds me that there is a next step there somewhere. And it also houses, you know, keeps the bolts organized. So it's a total win-win. I'm gonna need to get a new little 1/4-inch wrench here because this thing is sort of starting to strip out. This is the second time it's stripped out. This is a Craftsman one. This is a made in the USA Craftsman one that I got when I was a kid, basically. And before Craftsman like sort of went out of business and got sold to Lowe's, I was still able to get this thing like warrantied out, you know, because Craftsman used to be a thing where you could get the big selling point for Craftsman was that it was like a lifetime guarantee, man. If it broke ever, you could bring it back and they would fix it or replace it or whatever. And so I was able to get this one fixed, but it is stripping out again. And maybe I like abuse it because it's a smaller wrench, and I'm using it for everything on this bike. But again, everything on this bike only gets sort of torqued down to 9 foot-pounds, which is nothing. I do need to get a new one. I don't think they still have that warranty. I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that. All right, so that's attached up there. So these guys attach on both sides of the engine. They attach down here. You can see the little opening right there, and there's a little bolt right there to hold it in. These guys just slot in there, and there's a little O-ring that goes on here as well. Grab those O-rings. I've set these aside specifically. Make sure the old O-ring is off of there and it's not just smashed in there and turned to stone. It's past inspection. All right, get the new O-ring on here. It's a 12. That is uncommon. That's good. All right, I'm gonna do the other side. I'll be back. All right, so I'm over here on the left-hand side of the bike, and I'm looking at these hoses, and it's got this T, and like I took these hoses and replaced them exactly in the order that they were in and everything. And so, but the T itself I find fascinating, because now when I'm looking at it, like this thing, like it's a flat sort of T here, this T joint, which means that this hose points almost straight at the wheel, almost coming through here, and then it's supposed to turn and go over that way. That seems really inefficient. Like I feel like the T, instead of being flat like that, it should have a curve to it, so that this hose comes in here, and then the other hose would bend, and the T would bend, and then the hose would have a better angle going across there. It seems like a bad design. I don't know. I feel like I must be missing something. All right, I'm gonna test fit this bottom hose on here. Let's see how this looks. Man, it will function, but look at it. I feel like this sticks out way more than it should. Like I've got like 4 inches or something in here. I don't think this would be an issue with the wheel ever like contacting it, but still it seems like it could be more efficient. All right, then the one on the top here, like this radiator is in straight view of the other radiator, so see no reason not to have a straight piece of tubing through there. This, I don't know why the one that is up there has a slight curve to it. Like I hope you can see, like that one has like a bit of a bend to it right in the middle. Almost looks like it's supposed to go around something, but there's nothing there for like inches, I think. There it is. I don't know if you can see that better now, but it's got this random little curve in the middle. Maybe that's for wheel clearance at the very bottom of the wheel travel. That's the only thing that makes sense, which is a pretty good reason. We've got our new piece of hose cut. I'm gonna throw this guy on here. That one is on. That one is on. All right, sweet. All right, so new hose is on there. I just gotta tighten down the hose clamps, we're good. All right, so I'm coming back to this problem of this sort of kinked hose here. The factory one has a slight bend to it. And so I was thinking I had to order this, but I'm going to try and bend it myself so that we don't have to wait to get this thing. Because if we ordered the part, we'd have to wait for the part to come in, and that'd be boring and all that stuff. So if we can get this done today, that would be much better. And make for a great Friday. And so I've actually got some stuff up here that I need to do this project. So you can kind of see where I'm going here. So here's the old one. This is the one I took off the bike, and this is clearly deformed and not a very good sort of guide to where we want to go. So in order to make my own guide, I'm going to mark on here sort of where I want the bend to be, which I think is like, should be like right about there. Now when I take this thing off, we'll sort of have a better idea of where we need our bend to be, and it only needs to be a slight bend too. I'm gonna actually get out my little angle finder here. We're gonna get real technical here with it and actually sort of dial in the proper angle. So here is the concept. So that we need this thing bent right here, and we need it bent at approximately this angle, which is about 35 degrees. So if I can get this off. So I'm just using these guys. There's some bending springs. And these are designed for like copper pipe. That's what they're marketed for. But should also be able to use it for this project. So I get one that sort of fits inside there to help hold the shape or the inside diameter, then I should be able to bend this and form it. These little springs keep preventing you from kinking things. My heat gun. Now let's see if we can do some damage here. So I want the bend right about there. That's really hot. Some welding gloves here, real quick. This may not work. All right, that's not gonna work. You can see I achieved a slight bend to it. It's not nearly the bend I need, and more importantly, I'm fatiguing the hose itself where it's developing cracks, and so I basically just ruined this hose, right? This is definitely not a viable technique, or at least the way at least in this case, this is for this attempt, this is not going to work. So I need to go order parts. I think that's where I'm at for the day, and we'll see you guys next week.